welcome to the SuperGen Podcast. As always, I am Alex, and as always, shouts out to Waveshaper for that excellent intro and later outro music. This week, I wanted to sit down and talk about the elephant in the news and the lonely man in the room. I wanted to do a big season finale of the SuperGen Podcast because we will be on a short break before we come back bigger and stronger and better than ever. But due to health issues, traveling, life in general getting in the way, it is just me this week. And I did not want to go without making a video. So here we are, just me and you, and let's talk about net neutrality. And more importantly, I wanted to talk about why I do not think it will be the end of the internet as we know it. To clarify, I don't think that it's ideal, like many things that are going on right now in this country and the world, obviously. But it is a pill I'm willing to swallow, and here's why. I think that there's a lot of drama and a lot of over exaggeration that's happening out there, oh, the internet is over, this is gonna change everything, and it is a big change, a big not ideal change, but I don't think it will drastically change everything the way that people are blowing it up to be. The big thing to keep in mind through all this is the place that big internet companies like Google, like Wikipedia, like these big naysayers of net neutrality being repealed, you know what I mean? They do have a big stake, I guess, in the in that obviously they're on the internet, but also in that they have large amounts of capital and huge amounts of traffic going to their site. So your Netflix, for example, makes up a huge percentage of the bandwidth that's taken up in a lot of situations, a lot of households. And they're paying nothing extra. They're paying the same amount to host their website that I'm paying to host our website that gets significantly less viewers, let's say. The only difference obviously is, they have to have more servers and things like that are on their end to deal with that amount of traffic. But they're paying the ISPs, the internet service providers, to my knowledge, the exact same amount to host their website, even though a great deal more strain is being put on the network because of their existence. Just because way more people are going to these sites. And that information has to travel across this infrastructure that exists, that was created by these big, internet service providers, these big internet companies. So, they've been getting away with an excellent deal in that they're saving huge amounts of money not having to pay for what people are calling internet fast lanes or, paying, I guess, for premium service, which is awesome. I love that the internet is a fair and open space, but in the coming days, if it is not going to be that, I think that these companies are more than willing to pay up, for these fast lanes, and to get these special access and stuff like that they're going to be expected to pay moving forward. So obviously the big sites will not change at all. It'll change on their end because they're going to be spending more money, and most likely we're going to see, I guess the question that they have to ask themselves is, can we afford, based on how much they're going to be charged to use this fast lane, to continue to offer our services at the same price, or are we going to pass the costs onto the consumer, to us? That would be the only big way that we're going to see a change there. And then this is where it gets kind of dicey because it does not seem like the internet service providers, with this big influx of cash that they're going to have from these companies who are paying for that, what are they going to do with it? And if the answer is they're going to line the pockets of their CEOs and executives, then that is terrible. But if they're willing to invest that money back into infrastructure and back into making the internet a, infrastructure, the actual wires and, pipes, whatever, that are going through the ground, a better situation, then it could mean that there are positives that come out of this, situation. We could end up with better internet speeds, better upload and download speeds, more stable connections, less outages, things like that, without seeing a huge increase in our monthly payment for our internet service itself, which is already pretty up there in price. So we're seeing a big movement of cash that's not from us, the consumer. It's from these big companies that make the internet great in a big way. It's hard to imagine getting online and not having like a Google or a Netflix or a Facebook or something like that. So they will continue to exist the way that they are, and everyone else is gonna have to follow suit. So the other big depressing thing, I guess, about net neutrality potentially ending is a lot of people are worried about the death of innovation, because the online world has been such like a hotbed of startups, of innovation, because it's this fair and even place where everybody's website has the same priorities, so they have the same ability to have access to it. So they have the same like ease of access and everything like that. I don't think that not having that is going to be a huge issue for innovation, because these big startups, these websites that have become big, they're getting angel investors at an early stage that want to invest in this. And right now, technology is the big industry to invest in and to make money off of investments. So these angel investors, they're still going to be coming in like at this early stage in the company, and it's their money that's going to be spent to make these, fast lanes accessible, and to, I guess, get that information out there that the new company wants to get out there to the world. And I don't think that the internet service providers have a huge incentive to slow down not already existing sites. So it's not going to be a main priority on that, but we've got bandwidth, and hopefully we'll be having more bandwidth to spare, where I don't think the sites are just not going to load or not function properly to the point where we can't innovate around that, where we can't create a website where we're getting around these potential roadblocks of speed being an issue. But I really don't see like innovation dying on the web because of this change. The way that people are super up in arms and concerned about like, oh, these things are going away. They're not going anywhere, it doesn't seem like. And that's where we have like the two big ends. You've got the big guys who we aren't going to see a lot of change from, or at least not negative change, because they're just going to pay up. They're going to have to. Worst case scenario, we're paying an extra couple of bucks a month, even if they pass on, the cost to the consumer. Netflix, has millions and millions of subscribers at $10 a month. If it were $11 a month, that's an extra millions and millions of dollars that they're grabbing, $1 per person. So I can't conceive the internet service providers charging a, fee high enough that it could not be solved by a couple of bucks a month for the consumer, which adds up over time, and once again, is not ideal, but is not breaking the internet as we know it. And then from the other side, you've got these innovators that are going to be pushing in that may have to innovate in some way if slowdowns are a huge issue, or may have to raise more funding from investors or something like that to get into these fast lanes. But I don't think that path to becoming a big company and becoming a force for change on the web is going to be as big of an issue that people are making it out to be. And that kind of leaves like in the middle your big companies that are fighting against each other, So a big example of this was like, I think this made it into the courts even when T-Mobile had their binge on service, which they still have. They were essentially making it so some data didn't count towards limits because they had partnerships with these companies or because they had received, money from these companies in some way. So that could be like the biggest issue or point of contention with this, in that, and this is like the issue I feel like almost nobody is talking about. They're just talking about, oh, the internet service providers are greedy and they're going to be hiking up prices, and now they're going to be like, asking you about all these packages when they come out to your house and all these things to be factored into your bill, whatever. But I guess competition between two companies, so like your, direct competitors, let's say there was another huge, social media site like Facebook, that had like a web presence, not so much mobile. We just, I guess maybe like your Facebook and your Snapchat, you can't really compare them as far as user base, but if they're going head to head, trying to spend more money to get, better connection and things like that, there is a sort of limit to it. But there's kind of like this underhanded like thing that could happen where people will be rushing. It'll be like a gold rush to, I need to make a partnership with Verizon, or I need to make a partnership with, Time Warner or whatever else, so that my stuff has the best priority, has the best access, gets, the customers so they don't add towards their data cap if those are going to exist and become more mainstream in the home internet service. I hope that they're not. Because they're sort of going away in the mobile market. We saw Verizon offer an unlimited plan again. We saw Sprint and T-Mobile have had their unlimited plans for some time that throttle after a certain thing. But if we see these binge-on type deals happening, I think that's going to be a big gold rush, and that could be a big thing where their competition is going to become fierce to create those partnerships and to spend that money. And it could really hurt, competitors if you're going to have slowdowns for companies that you don't have like an agreement with, you know what I mean? It doesn't hurt the little guys at all. And the very big guys, they've got the money to spend, but these people in the middle that are going to be trying really hard to create these partnerships, because they don't have as much like clout, I guess, as far as for bargaining or things like that, that's where we're going to see, I think, like the most negativity come out of this. But I mean, all we can do is wait and see like what the future has to bring. And speaking of the future, I do want to talk about the future of the SuperGen and this podcast, obviously. So let's get into that. So the future of the SuperGen, I'm here. I'm in, baby, and we will be back with the SuperGen podcast, but it is looking like we will take a 2-week hiatus, as evidenced by this today. I don't know how much I can, or how much you will enjoy as a viewer. Obviously this drastically changed format, being in the home studio, being one guy talking into a lens, talking directly to you, rather than the panel and the traditional setup that we have. This is obviously still news focused, but much more, my opinion based and less discussion based, less us as a whole. And that's not the direction I want to take this in. I wanted to put this video out today because it was a big topic, net neutrality, that I wanted to talk about, and I wanted to, I didn't want to disappear from the web, I suppose. So for all of us, all our subscribers and all our fans that are out there watching and listening on iTunes and Google Play or YouTube, thank you. Thank you for your support thus far. And I guess the only thing I can say is we saw such rapid growth and grew kind of too big for our britches too quickly. So we're going to take a step back as a unit, as a whole, not just me, myself, and reevaluate the situation, reevaluate our voice and our programming, and moving forward, I want to have a regimen set up. I guess. Right now, the podcast was being tossed around and edited by a different person every week, and we had different workflows and different styles of editing sometimes, so it seemed less consistent, and the program typically was just what's in the news, and I want to have more of a structure and a format put together. So during those 2 weeks, being just one guy, I'm going to take the time to build that format and to build those graphics and to build that structure to the point where it is going to be a very consistent, or more consistent show, I guess, more so than it's just the same day every week. So I'm going to take these next 2 weeks to build that up. I may see you next week at the same time and place. I hope, if I do, that you'll join me then, and I'm looking forward to the future, to the SuperGen as a whole, as the future, and to our future together. So thank you so much for watching, and I would love to hear your opinions, and not just opinions, but your informed, I guess, opposition to my argument when it comes to net neutrality, because I've done research on this, but I don't consider myself an expert, and who does, really? So let's, us amateurs, have a discussion about what the future might bring, and a positive discussion at that, not fear-mongering and not clickbait like, oh, the internet's dead and everything's going to change, and I want to hear the voices of more the users rather than an echo of what these big companies have to say about this big change to the internet as we know it. I don't think it will be a big of a change as they are making it out to be, but they're rallying our support as they should, because it's going to cost them money. These big companies, these big internet companies, is going to cost them something, and they don't want to pay it. They shouldn't have to. I don't think, but that's just the way the cookie crumbles. So thanks again for watching, and until next time, I hope to see you then.